Oh my God, I cannot believe this just happened. Crazy development here. Cam Newton is a New England Patriot. No, I am not joking. This just happened. What a wild situation. I mean, listen, I love it. From the Patriots' perspective, I think this is great. And I think you can make a strong argument that this means that they're going to potentially be Super Bowl contenders. I really do feel that way. Unfortunately, I just recorded a podcast with Kyle and Hook Cam, and we just got done recording the podcast, and then this news breaks, so it's like, okay, well, that was worst case scenario. But honestly, I really like this move from the Patriots' perspective. I think this makes a ton of sense, and yeah, like I said, I think that you could legitimately make the argument that they are now Super Bowl contenders, and let me just get into why I feel that way. So the last we saw of Cam Newton was this past season, week 2. It was a Thursday night game against Tampa Bay, and he looked bad. And a big part of why he looked bad was because he was hurt. I mean, he was clearly not healthy, and his accuracy just wasn't there. Like, on a play like this, it's going to be a one-on-one matchup. Something that could potentially get open. It's a route that's pretty good against man coverage, so Cam Newton is going to look in that direction. That's where he wants to throw this ball to. It doesn't get, totally open, but, maybe there is some separation here. If it's a perfect throw, it could be a completion. Again, this is tough. There actually is a better option on the top of the screen, but that's not really where Cam Newton is looking, so, again, yeah, I can nitpick and say he should throw it there, but at the end of the day, sometimes you have to just pick a read and go with it, especially in the red zone when you don't have too much time. But then also watch how this throw is just going to be wild. It's not even close. It kind of looked like he was throwing it away there, but I don't believe that was the case. I think he just horribly missed the throw. And it wasn't just that one. It was also one like this, where it's going to be a cover one blitz, and that's actually fine for Carolina because they have a receiver running a go route towards the sideline. It's a route that can work against this type of coverage, of course, because there's only one safety who is deep, and with that receiver running deep, especially with it being press coverage, all he has to do is really get past his assigned man. And if he can get open, this is definitely a route that Cam Newton can look to throw to, and it can work out potentially well. And after the ball is snapped, he's not going to get wide open, but Cam Newton, he just horribly misses this throw. Again, I mean, that's nowhere close right there. So to me, the fact that he's missing these ones by a wide margin kind of shows me that he just wasn't healthy. It doesn't show me that he's, fallen off a cliff. And let's be honest, Cam Newton for a quarterback isn't that old. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, he's not just a traditional quarterback, he's someone who runs the ball a lot. So a 31-year-old quarterback is still in your prime, but a 31-year-old running back / quarterback, that's, well past your prime. That's what a lot of people are going to say. I don't know if I totally agree, and the reason why I say that is because I don't think that he is this running back who sometimes throws the ball. I think he is a quarterback, and I actually think his throwing ability is vastly underrated. I think he's actually a very good thrower of the football, and people don't give him enough credit for that. I mean, I think a lot of people sort of put him in the same breath as a Lamar Jackson type, and to some degree, I mean, listen, don't get me wrong, he does run the ball a good amount. He picks up yards through running the ball, but he's always sort of stayed around 400 to 500 rushing yards per season. I mean, he had over 700 in his first 2 seasons, and he also had over 700 in 2017. But other than that, that's typically where he would hang out at. But he had a pretty low, just 488 rushing yards in 2018. And it seemed like in 2018, they were kind of transitioning him to be less of a runner. And part of that was because he missed 2 games. So, again, the yards itself were kind of only a little bit down. But just watching the tape from that, you could definitely tell they were trying to transition him to be less and less of a runner, and especially you compare that to a Lamar Jackson who was rushing for 1,200 yards last season. It's certainly a big difference. I do feel like his throwing ability has often been underrated, and this is an example of it where what's going to happen is that it's a red zone situation. It's a cover one play. Newton, he has a receiver running over the middle, which is a route that is okay. I mean, there will be an opening, but the problem is that there's a safety who is deep. So if the safety wasn't there, this would be a great route, but since the safety is there, this is going to be a little bit more difficult. Also, I should mention, this is in 2018, not 2019, but, we only saw him play 2 games last year, and he wasn't healthy for them. This is kind of going back to healthy Cam Newton that we've seen the most recently. And right after the ball is snapped, you're going to notice that there is, again, like I said, it's okay, but it's not great. And this is actually pretty good coverage. So there's already a tight window, and plus there's a safety. So this is a dangerous throw, and there's not a big window whatsoever. But Newton is able to fit it through that window. And this is what Newton has always done well. I'm not going to sit here and say he's, Aaron Rodgers out there. But when it comes to these middling routes, this, short to medium range routes, he's very good. And hey, what kind of system is known for using a lot of short range to medium range routes? Oh yeah, it's the New England Patriots. And, Newton, I think he can play pretty well there. I really do. Obviously, throwing the ball isn't all that makes Cam Newton great, but I think that he really does deserve more credit than he gets. And I think that really, I think what I think is going to happen with New England is that they'll have him throw the ball a lot more. I think you'll be surprised by how much he throws the ball, but they'll pick their moments when he runs it. And when they do that, it can really have some key positive benefits. Like a play like this, it's going to be, they're going to fake a handoff to the top of the screen. Newton is going to keep it himself and run to the bottom of the screen. And those two Baltimore players are going to be unblocked. So the two closest to Newton are going to remain unblocked here, which, it'll work if the fake works out. And what you're going to notice is that the fake does work out, but also Newton is so quick that you really had to figure that out right away because he can accelerate so quick. And I think that this will be the kind of running play we'll see New England run with him. It's not necessarily let's just have Cam Newton, run with the football 15 carries a game. I can't imagine that happening. I think what's really going to happen is they're going to pick their moments and use it as a tool in their tool belt, but not necessarily, using it as a hammer and trying to fix everything with the hammer. I think they're gonna use it. I definitely think that his running ability will get used, but I don't think that it's gonna be like the biggest factor. And it's a good thing to have a guy who is a huge mammoth of a man who can also run incredibly quickly. That definitely has its positive benefits, no doubt about it. And again, one thing I also wanted to mention is that, you talk about the last time we saw him. I think a lot of people said, okay, well, he looked bad, so therefore he was, banged up. He's getting old for the way that he plays. And the last time we saw him, he didn't play very well. So probably means that he's on his way out. But again, if you actually look at the box score, it's not as bad as you would think. I mean, he ended up throwing for 333 yards. Admittedly, he threw the ball 51 times, so his yards per attempt was 6.5, which is definitely on the low end. I'm not going to say it's not. He also didn't throw for any touchdowns in that game. And, last season in his 2 games, he threw for no touchdowns and he had an interception. So, again, I'm not going to sit here and say that he was great, but if that's what he's at his floor, I think that he can absolutely be good. And even though I was actually pretty pro Stidham, I think he could be an upgrade. And also, again, if you rewatch that game, the Thursday night game, he had some very good throws. Like this one, it's going to be a cover 1 play, and he has a tight end running over the middle. So, it's a route, again, there's a lot of people in the area, but if he can win his one-on-one matchup and it takes long enough to develop, this could be a play that works out very well. And after the ball is snapped, you're going to notice there isn't a ton of separation, but look at that throw, which is just perfect and allows for a huge gain. Just a perfectly accurate throw, and Newton is capable of making those plays, especially on those middle routes, on those I would say 7 to 15 yard routes. He is very good, and I think that that's why New England is actually interested in him more so than his running ability. So I love this move from the Patriots' perspective. I think it's a ton of fun, and I think it makes sense. I mean, listen, I don't hate Stidham by any means. I think Stidham's all right, but at the end of the day, when you can go out and get a former MVP for $7 million a year, who is now going to potentially, put you back in the not just playoff hunt, but AFC Championship hunt, I think it's a great move. I talked about the podcast that we did, and ironically, one of the questions was who was going to win the AFC East. So that's already very outdated by the time you guys watch it. Or, you can listen to it now. It's up on all podcast distributors, and it's up on the website. You can click on the link in the description below to get to the website if you want to listen to the podcast. But one of the things we did was it was a debate show, and one of the questions was who was going to win the AFC East. And it was kind of funny to see, Cam pick the Patriots. And it was like, well, yeah, the Patriots' defense is great, but will the offense be good enough, or will it be abysmal? Well, with Cam Newton, it's not going to be abysmal, I don't think. Worst case scenario, well, you wasted money on someone who's not going to end up playing, but which is not a great scenario, but it's not a disaster either. And you still have Stidham, you still can play Stidham, but now you have the option where if Newton is healthy, he can potentially be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, and that's a pretty good deal for just having to spend $7 million for 1 year on him. I still think that in my head, I still think that Patriots are probably third. I still would say I would pick Baltimore and Kansas City ahead of them as of right now. But I think that gap has gotten a lot closer. That's definitely for sure. So what do you guys think? I'll pass off the question to you. What do you think of this move? Are you as high on it as I am? Or do you think I'm getting a bit too excited, which I have a tendency to do? But I think it's a crazy move and a lot of fun. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.